All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Coach's Corner. This is Wellness with Gina, and this week we have a bonus Coach's Corner, which I'm super excited about with Alex. Welcome, Alex.
Yes, Gina, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and to talk about all things mental load. It's my bread and butter, so I'm excited to dive in.
Yes, I love having collaborations with different working women, and we met through LinkedIn, and you just never know who you're going to meet, right? So it's always fun getting to know people and bringing them on my platform, which I absolutely love. So welcome into what I like to call the Coach's Corner, where we talk everything health and wellness from the mind, the body, and the behavior. And this month, April, is all about working women and the mental load that we carry. And I just want to hear about your story. You have such an interesting story of how you became a health coach in your own way. I think, yes, there's a lot of health coaches out there, but we all do something a little bit different. We all have a little different flavor. So tell us a little bit about you and your story and your background.
Yeah, of course. So prior to being a coach, I actually worked in New York City, and had this dream and aspiration coming out of college to be a high achieving badass businesswoman in New York City. And I started to go down that path, the standard path of success. I started to really build my marketing career, worked in a bunch of really cool organizations and companies, and the hustle culture of New York is real, and climbing the corporate ladder in New York is real. And I was doing all of the things I thought was expected of me, and all of the things that I thought were really going to make me happy and bring me happiness, aka chase promotions, chase money, chase the achievement. And I got to the top of, not the top of the ladder, but I had achieved those goals. And I looked around and I was like, wow, I have the boyfriend that I think I'm going to marry. I have the apartment in Greenwich Village. I have the title. I have the 6-figure salary working at an impact driven startup. I had all the things. So on the outside looking in, you might think I have this dream life and everything is beautiful. But from the inside, I was so burnt out and so miserable because I was chasing this idea of success that wasn't mine, but I didn't know it wasn't mine. It's just what I had been told. And I didn't really know I never gave myself permission to kind of write my own idea of what success could look like. It's just, okay, I put my head down, I did what I was told, and I got there, and I was so miserable, so burnt out. And it was the beginning of the pandemic, and it was the first time the world totally stopped. So I had to look at myself in the mirror and had to reflect on everything that was going on and be like, what is happiness? What brings true happiness in this world? Because everything I thought was going to make me happy actually made me the worst version of myself, and it negatively impacted my health. I was stressed out all the time. I brought that stress into my relationship. I ditched every single personal goal. I would never work out, ate really unhealthily because I would soothe myself with food. I had a really hard time sleeping because my stress was so high. I'd wake up feeling exhausted, and it was just this endless cycle, right? And so it was the first time I looked at, pandemic happens, first time I looked at myself in the mirror and was like, what are you doing? Like, what is all of this for? This doesn't make any sense. You are so not happy, and you're so far away from your authentic self, and this isn't it. What is it, right? And so it was giving myself permission to really ask myself what I want out of life and what would actually make me happy and how I would define success in my life. And it didn't look like climbing a corporate ladder. So I started exploring other options as far as my career goes. I started taking care of my health again because all I had was time now, right? And I walked away from that relationship and really found myself again. And it was through health and wellness and moving my body in ways that felt good, actually sleeping enough, and focusing on stress management habits that really helped me ground myself in finding myself again. And then from there, I pursued a new career, because if you're spending 40 plus hours of your week doing something that you absolutely hate, taking care of yourself outside of work can only take you so far as
Right.
far as making you feel good. So I had that aha moment. And then I was like, all right, we've got to pursue something that's meaningful, that has impact. And that's what really introduced me to the world of health coaching and working with women in the corporate space to manage their stress in a way that is productive, while also giving them the time and energy back in their day to figure out what meaningful work looks like. Because, like I said, if you're miserable 40 plus hours of your day, that's going to bleed into every other aspect of your life. And the stress management habits can only take you so far as happiness. So that's
So
really
true.
my career journey. Yeah. And that's how I've gotten to where I am now.
Yeah, and your story is not unique about the pandemic
Yeah.
because I think that was like a pivotal moment for so many people, not just women, men too,
Yeah.
where we had this identity crisis like, wait a minute, what am I doing? And
Hmm.
this idea of striving for success and what is success? What does that mean to me? Success,
Right.
is it the same as happiness? Well, no. And where am I getting this definition of success? Who's putting that on me? Because that's a whole nother frame of
Hmm.
mind and mindset to think about, is like, what in the world, who put this idea in my head? What does society say as a woman that I'm supposed to be and do and have all the things, right? It's like, can we have all the things and be at the top of our career and still have a family, have a partner, feel fulfilled? Well, yes, you can do all the things, but not all at once if you don't have help. We really have to think about, like you said, happiness for yourself. So yeah, that's walking away. What was that like for you? Like walking away from all of that, your partner, your career?
Yeah, that was a big rock bottom moment. I'm not going to lie. But I think what I realized is I did not want to look up in 3 months from that moment and still be in the exact same spot, because I recognized that I had made all of those decisions to get me to that point, and I had the power to make other decisions to get me to where I actually wanted to be. And so instead of sitting in the sorrow and feeling bad for myself, I recognized that your happiness is a choice. Finding happiness every day is absolutely a choice that you can make. It's not just an emotion that comes and goes and you feel it, right? You can choose to be happy. You can choose to prioritize your time accordingly. You can choose to redirect your energy. And I realized that because, again, there was nothing else to do but really look inward at that time. And I said, okay, I made decisions to get me here. I can make decisions to get me out of here. And it was recognizing that I had that power. And instead of being out of control of that and saying, woe is me, I feel so bad for myself, I was like, okay, I can either sit here and wake up in 3 months, 6 months from now and be in the same place, or I can take action. Two options.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of us get wrapped up in the identity of
Hmm.
being that person, who's at
Yeah.
the top and making that kind of money. And that means something to us. Even though we might be miserable, it's like,
Yeah.
well, I worked so hard to get here. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not just going to walk away from that because I put in 110% and now I'm making the money. Like, how do you say goodbye to that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's hard. It's hard. First of all, I'll say it does not happen in a day. That's the thing. It really took me, I would say, from the beginning of the pandemic to today, which is almost it is over 3 full years, really. And when I decided to work on pursuing another career path, it took me a full year to transition out of being a corporate marketer and into being a health coach. I was doing a lot of behind the scenes work while I was still working full time. During that time, I was still, every paycheck I was getting was going right into a savings account, knowing that one day I was going to walk away from that. And
Right.
don't get me wrong, it is scary. I still have identity crises sometimes. I didn't call myself a health coach or an entrepreneur for like a year and a half. That took some time to get used to, because you're right, you're like fully ripping part of your identity away. But at the end of the day, like, you are you. Strip away all of the external stuff. Like, a job title means nothing, right? When you get to the end of your life and people are at your funeral, they're not going to remember where you worked, who you worked for, how much money you made. They're going to remember who you were as a person. And I think that was like my driving force of like, okay, I don't want that life. I know I don't want
Yeah.
that life. And it's okay to pursue your happiness unapologetically and live by your truth. Because at the end of the day, it's about the impact I want to have on the world, not about my job title. Who cares about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And not about other people's expectations of you,
Yeah.
and having that freedom, that space and time freedom to be able to self evaluate, I
Yeah.
think was huge. Was there another like pivotal moment? Let's say the pandemic never happened. Do you think there would have been a pivotal moment for you when you would have said, I'm done, I'm walking away from this?
So it's interesting because I do believe that would have happened still. I think the point I was in my relationship would have been that rock bottom I needed, but the pandemic just like was the catalyst. Like that really was like, okay, emergency brake on this life that you're living. Let's reevaluate everything at once. And I think I was starting to get there slowly but surely. Because we all, whether we listen to it or not, we have an inner knowing. And at that time, I knew in my heart that the guy was not the guy, the job was not the job, the city was not the city. I just was ignoring it because I was in denial for a long time. And I think, yes, the pandemic was like the wake up call I needed, but I think eventually I would have gotten to the like rock bottom point and been like, I don't want to do this anymore. But that's all to say too. Like, you don't need to hit that breaking point.
Yeah,
I
and
Yeah,
it's so hard. It's so hard, right, to tell people these things. And we see so many women who are struggling and
yeah,
struggling and trying to push that boulder up a hill, and it feels so hard and
yeah,
heavy. And it's, I talk about the mental load as more than just the doing that we do, although that contributes. It's everything that's going on in your head, like all those little checklists that we make, all the ways that we are anticipating emotional and physical needs of the people around us, whether that's at work or home, and then trying to fulfill those needs, trying
mhm,
to check back. We're always circling back. Hey, are you okay? Is what happened with so and so? So it's all the things that we do in our day to day that contribute to our mental load. So absolutely, when you're trying to do all the things like you did, and it's just not working, or it just doesn't
mhm.
feel good, does it feel expansive, or does it feel like contraction, in your
Yeah,
body and in your
yeah,
mind? So we want people to feel free and open and in flow in their own lives. So
yeah,
if you could give people like one tip after, I mean, you totally revamped your life. That's what I love about your story. You moved. I mean, that was the biggest thing.
everything.
You got rid of the guy, you got rid of the job, you got rid of the city, and you
Yeah,
totally moved. But
yeah,
if you could give people like one tip to take away from this whole conversation of you don't have to live like this, what would
yeah,
it be?
yeah. I think, oh God, it's hard. One tip I'll share two. So number
Okay.
one, the one thing that I learned is that I've learned many things from this whole experience, obviously, but one really big takeaway was that the relationship that you have with yourself is the most important relationship you'll ever have in your entire lifetime because you're the only person you spend every second of your life with. So it's not selfish to take time for yourself and to fill your cup up and fulfill your needs because then you can show up as the best version of yourself and then be able to give to your family, to your friends, to your job, to everything at a much higher level and from a much better intentioned place, right? If we're coming from a place of depletion and we are just people pleasing to people please, there will be so much conflict in your life and you'll end up with so much resentment, like I did. And you don't want to do that. So putting yourself first and making sure your relationship with yourself is really rock solid. That's one. And I think dovetailing into my second tip, it's boundary setting, right? Like, again, going into the people pleasing thing, setting up boundaries for yourself is not saying no to people. We oftentimes think boundaries is like we're putting up walls to block people out. But actually, when you're saying no to certain things, you're actually opening up your space to say yes to so many other things that are in more alignment with you and will remove a lot of that conflict. So setting boundaries and really enforcing them in a way that's healthy for you is actually you really saying yes to yourself and your needs. And then again, that goes back into you being the best version of yourself for everybody else around you and everything else that you want to take on.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Love that. So when you say taking care of yourself, are
Yeah.
you actually putting things on your calendar? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I am the queen. You should see the color coding on my calendar. I love it. I never, when I worked in New York, I never scheduled any time for myself. Everybody else was scheduled in my calendar except myself. So taking care of myself can look very different than how you take care of yourself. But what really works for me is having a rock solid morning routine where I have time dedicated first thing in the morning that is uninterrupted time. Nobody can book over it. Nothing would potentially come up to make me cancel it or rearrange it. I'm thinking about all the spin classes I used to cancel after work because I was too tired. I would just like skip it. So I wake up and the first thing I do is move my body. The second thing I do is activate my mind through like gratitude and journaling. And the third thing I do is have a dance party in my living room, which is activating my soul. So I put all of those things first. They make me feel really good in the morning. I schedule it in. So it's uninterrupted me time. And then by 9 o'clock, I've just had 2, 3 hours to myself and I'm feeling great. Right. So I'm ready to start my day. I'm ready to call my mom or my friends or do all that kind of stuff. So that has been instrumental in helping me take care of myself in the way that I know makes me feel my best.
That's awesome. Look at you go. That's a whole routine. You have a whole routine there for the
So I have a
morning.
whole routine. Yes. I can share. But it doesn't need to be that intense, right? Like I've built
Yeah.
up to that. That took me a couple years to really figure out what works, what doesn't, trial and error, really testing things out and just leaning into what feels good. That's how I've landed on that. So if there's one thing that you really enjoy doing first thing in the morning for yourself, and if it takes 5 minutes, do it. Start there.
Yes. Yes.
And then build on that.
It could be as easy as a morning routine. It could be a workout. It could be a
Yeah.
meditation session. Whatever it is that you need to do, like you said, it's not selfish to take time out to take care of you. You're the most important relationship that you'll have.
Yeah.
So you gotta nurture it. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing your story and your picture of the mental load, what it looked like for you, what it's like now, which is awesome. You're rocking and rolling, which is really good. Will you let people know where they can find you in case they want a little bit more Alex in their lives?
Yes, of course. You can always connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search my name, Alex Colkitt. It's right down here on the screen. And you can also find me on Instagram at alex.colkitt.
Awesome. Thanks again, Alex. And I'm sure that we will meet again at some point to
Yes.
have another fun discussion like this. So have a great day, everybody. And if you want to get in touch, you know how. Just put it down below, send me a comment or a personal message. All right. Until next time.